good morning, everyone. Mr. G here with your long range weather forecast, and today we are going to talk about the crazy weather that's going on across the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes, as well as the severe weather that's down across the Southeast. We're going to take a look out 2 weeks ahead and look at what's next to come, the next storm systems that we may be dealing with. We're going to use our GFS for the long range, and we're going to also use the NOM 3 kilometer. No, well, I guess no, maybe just the GFS and different iterations of the GFS today for the purpose of this forecast. Because the NOM only goes out 60 hours, so we won't be using the NOM, I don't think, for this. But I will do another video where we talk about the severe weather as well as the winter weather, and they will be separate videos, and we use the NOM for those. But anyway, good morning to the folks in Cleveland, Ohio, as you are preparing and waiting for the same weather system that's affecting me in the upper Midwest and Minnesota to make its way across into Ohio, where it's going to bring freezing rain as well as regular rain, maybe some snow on the back end for your area. So be on the lookout for that for the folks in Cleveland. So we are going to jump into our first map, which is from WSV3. And this is my favorite toy to play with. I really love this map. And let's jump into what's going on across America. The first area I want to look at is the big storm that's starting to take place across the upper Midwest. And we're going to zoom in on Minnesota right here in the Minneapolis area. As you can see, that snow is starting to move into your area from the north. It's currently streaming across central Minnesota. Duluth is starting to pick up that snow. I wouldn't be surprised if Minneapolis misses on this storm, because weird things like that happens. And this storm is elongated like this, but I see it lifting north instead of south. And the forecast is for it to sink south, but it could possibly do that because it's not really expected to dump the most snow until tomorrow, where Minneapolis could pick up 3 to 7 inches of snow in the daytime. Total storm accumulation can be 10 to 14 inches for this system that is forecast for Minneapolis right now. The National Weather Service does have a winter storm warning in place across central and northern parts of northern Minnesota. Elsewhere, it's going to see a winter weather advisory, because as you move to the south, that snow is going to transition into a mixed precipitation into northern Iowa. You're going to see some rain-snow mix, and if you go further south yet, then it will become freezing rain, and then further south below that, it will transition to regular rain and thunderstorms. So, but here in the upper Midwest, we're going to deal with snow, lots of it. Now, this is going to be that low moisture content snow, so it's going to be fluffy, going to be fairly dry, and it's going to accumulate really fast because it's light and fluffy. So that is a look at the upper Midwest right now. What's going on? Let's zoom out. We're going to go. Oh, wait a minute. What just happened here? Wait a minute. All right. Wait a second. I don't know what happened. Oh, wait a minute. WSV3 just crashed on me. That's what happened. Oh, it did crash. That's the first time I've ever seen the WSV3 map crash. It's never done that before. That's the first, but I'm glad it came back up and it decided that it wanted to run and act like it had some sense. All right, so we got our map back. Woo! All right, so anyway, whatever happened, it crashed on me. It just said, I'm done, man. I'm out of here. You asked for too much. And so anyway, we're going to go down to south here. We're going to go into the south. Take it down south, and we're going to look at the potential for the severe weather that's really going to hit later today and into tomorrow morning. Memphis, Tennessee, Fort Smith, Little Rock, Oklahoma City. My microphone arm in the way so I can't see half of the map. At Dallas, Texas, you're going to pick up some of those thunderstorms, but I don't think you're going to see anything severe overall in the Dallas area, but definitely in Oklahoma City, definitely in Little Rock, Memphis, Tennessee, you're going to see that severe weather. And the tornado threat is there. As we have a little bit of shear coming in from the south off the Gulf of Mexico. And it's going to spread some thunderstorms, maybe a tornado or two. I don't expect them to be F5s or F4s, but maybe a weaker spectrum tornado, short-lived. They're not going to be many long track. It's still really, really early in the season, so I'm not expecting the worst stuff yet. When we get into March, then we'll start to see that. But right now, this is just the early beginnings of that, so I wouldn't worry too much. I wouldn't let my guard down. Anything can happen, so but I'm not expecting it at this time, not with this and with this system. But what is happening a lot with this system, you see all these watches, all these headlines from the National Weather Service. You got all these flood warnings. There is also a lot of heavy rain, but a lot of snow has fallen through these regions here. Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, there has been some snow. So it's warmer, temperatures in the 50s and 40s. So that snow has been melting. With the combination of snow melt, you're going to have some ice damming because the ice breaks up as it melts, and the current of the river carries this ice along the river, and these chunks of ice creates dams as they get locked into corners or turns in the river or get hung up on things. They create ice jams, and they're melting as well, so the rivers rise with that ice melting and that heavy rainfall on top of it. So there are a lot of low-lying areas along the rivers, Kankakee River, the Mississippi River, the St. Croix River. We also have the Illinois River, a lot of different rivers and stuff that are going to be kind of running high right now as we dealing with that melting and heavy excessive rainfall over a long period of time that's running downstream, and these low-lying areas is going to be picking up as a lot of the Midwest, especially if you're in Missouri, Southern Illinois, Indiana, there's a lot of floodplains. So they are kind of designed to be the area that gets flooded out when you have excessive rainfall or when the snow melts in the spring, and especially if you take the snow that's in Minnesota and Canada that's going to run down the Red River or the St. Croix River and the Mississippi River, it's going to run into these areas. This is how we often see that flooding. I remember the severe flooding back in 1993, and I think there was also some flooding in 1998, 2010. So you often see those situations in I'm doing a lot of hydrology training in school, so I'm also going to be a certified hydrologist when I finish my education. So, but that's not my area of specialty. I'm a severe weather guy, so but it's going to be nice to have all of that stuff. But so that's a look at what's going on in these regions here as far as the flooding concerned, and a lot of these watches are due to that flooding. But also here I want to talk about a little bit about the drought conditions across the nation. And one area to pay attention to is here in this region where they've been experiencing extreme drought, and you see that there is red flag warnings. Red flag warning is when conditions are favorable for fires to form, and it's been very dry. It's going to be usually pretty windy, a dry wind blowing off of the leeward, off the back of the Rockies there, the Southern Rockies. Those winds are going to be coming into the high plains of New Mexico, North Texas, Western Oklahoma. If you've ever been to those areas, it's usually pretty arid and dusty. This was the area where the Dust Bowl, if you remember the Dust Bowl back in the 30s, Kansas and eastern Colorado, northeastern Oklahoma, North Texas. This is the same region that suffered from the Dust Bowl. So conditions are favorable for those fires to form and that excessive dryness. You know that Colorado is hey, listen, did you know that Colorado is the tumbleweed capital of the world? Now you do. Shout out to my boy on TikTok. Anyway, that's a look at the red flag warnings and the drought conditions and the potential for fires. There's actually several fires burning right now, several brush fires, some smaller forest fires right now. That's actually in their burning stages now. But we're going to take a look at the Pacific Northwest next. We're going to head up to Seattle and Portland. Seattle and Portland, baby. And they have some snow in the Cascades. There's also snow that's in the mountains of Idaho, Spokane, you in Kalispell. There's a place in the Kalispell called the Isaac Walton Inn. It was a really famous place that was kind of a boarding house for railroad workers back in the 1800s. If you're ever in that area and you're going to Glacier National Park in western Montana, you might want to visit there and maybe stay there. I think it is a hotel now, the Isaac Walton Inn. So if you're in that part of the region, and no, I'm not affiliated with them, but I'm just familiar with the area and would love to be able to go up there and spend a vacation or two, do some vacationing in that part of the world. I would love to live up there, actually, to be honest with you, in Wyoming. I really want to retire and say like Cody or Jackson Hole or, near the Grand Tetons. That's where I want to be buried or whatever, spend the rest of my days. Up in the mountains out west, baby. I love the mountains. But looking at the Pacific Northwest, you do see those snow showers in the mountains. You see that snow up in Idaho and Montana that's going to move through Missoula, Spokane. It's going to see that snow. And if you're in Portland, you're going to see some rain showers, maybe a rumble of thunder, as the National Weather Service do have a convective outlook for the Eugene area, Portland. You might see maybe some showers today, maybe a rumble of thunder. Nothing severe, no tornado risk at all, nothing like that up here. So, but, they also have had a rainfall deficit this year. So them getting some precipitation is a good thing, because it wasn't just a week ago they had temperatures in the 80s in that part of the country in February. So, it's La Nina has overall dominated our weather pattern and has had high pressure. It's been a warm season for that part of the nation because of that La Nina, and it's made everything very dry across the west, whereas El Nino makes everything very wet. The storms kind of come straight into the Pacific, as this year with that La Nina pattern, the storms have been driven into British Columbia, Canada. So they've been driven high over the top of over Washington and Oregon, and been missing them and been driving into Canada, rounding that big ridge, coming down into Alberta and sliding into the upper Midwest. And that's why we've been seeing an excessive number of Alberta clippers. If you live here in Minnesota, you've been those pesky 1-inch snowstorms that come through and blow through. Maybe they might last a few hours and they'll drop a half-inch of powdery snow, and it just makes the roads greasy and slippery. That's all they've done. We've had this kind of weather all winter. It's just been quick hitting, and then it gets cold and windy. And the stupid wind. I really hate the wind when you're up here. And oh man, is it that cold wind? It just blows through you. It's like and I had a nice. Anyway, I'll tell the story about the coat I lost. I went to the gym and my coat disappeared. I'm like, all right, somebody stole my winter coat. Maybe they didn't have one. I hope it's blessing somebody else. I thought it was an ugly coat, but it kept you warm. It did its job. But anyway, so that is a look at the nation right now and what's going on. in our WSV3 map. But let's keep on moving, keep it going, so this don't end up being an hour-long video. And we're going to jump into our long-range weather analysis. And now we are going to hop into the GFS right now. And the GFS, let's go ahead and close this out now since it don't want to let me go to my other map. There we go. All right, here is my GFS map. And it's acting stupid. So, okay, now let's run. Let's make it run. We're going to make a run for the border here. And here we go. Here is our first item up for bid. Is this big storm across the upper Midwest. You see the low pressure center is all the way down in Colorado. This is associated with the Colorado low. You see those millibars, 998 millibars. So it's a pretty potent Colorado system. You see those isobars coming up, and that wind is coming from the east northeast into wrapping around this weather system here. It's gonna spread some. Let's turn on my marker so I can draw on the screen and everything here. Let's change the color. Give me something pretty to look at. I don't want to look at red. All right, there we go. And here we are with this weather system that's going to spread that snow across the upper Midwest. You see that snow starting to move in. According to the forecast, we're going to get as much as 14 inches across Minneapolis. But I'm starting to think that's going to be hitting more north between Minneapolis and Duluth. So if you're in Croquet, if you say in Asante, if you're in that central portions of Minnesota, you're going to pick up Brainerd, Bemidji. That's the areas that I think might pick up that 14 inches of snow. So that's what that is looking like now. Let's clean our map off here. And we are going to also take a look at the weather here system here. This area of concern is these two are connected. This here is connected with this here. And what's taking place is this area of low pressure, this is a really powerful storm system that's developing here. And it's spreading all of this precipitation, but it's two distinct areas right now because they haven't connected together. They haven't phased. This moisture is coming up. This moisture is coming up out of the Gulf of Mexico and it's making its way to the north. And it's going to move, eventually overrun into this snow. This area here is going to fill in with precipitation. That rain is going to make its way all the way into, let's clear the map here. It's going to make its way all the way into the Great Lakes area where that snow and that rain is going to kind of meet up as this storm kind of pulls itself together as it makes its way out into the plain states. As it moves into the high plains, it's going to move across Kansas and into Missouri and right along the Missouri and Iowa border as it makes its way into the Ohio Valley. So let's progress here and let's watch that. Let's look at that take place, okay? And let's close this off so I can move it because it's keeping me from the Epic Pen is keeping me from moving along here. So let's move our map. When you see that coming together, you see how that fuses together, how the moisture that's coming out of the Gulf of Mexico finally makes its way up to Cleveland. This is what I was talking about for you folks in Cleveland. You see that rain. You could actually see some thunderstorms if you're in the Cleveland area. Cleveland, Cincinnati, as well as Louisville, Kentucky could pick up some thunderstorm activity. Indianapolis, you may see some of these thunderstorms as well as we move into the day tomorrow. This is what Tuesday is looking like according to the GFS. That is going to spread that. Not really severe weather. I think the severe weather will remain more in this region here. So we have, we don't want a sounding. I'm looking at the sounding. So it's going to spread that thunderstorm activity, but it's not going to be anything severe at this time for these regions. It's just not their time of the year. You see the area of low pressure now has made its way, and you see the low pressure area sitting here. Now it's made its way into the it's just north of St. Louis. It will be just north of St. Louis. Oh no, wait a minute. Hang on a second. My map just went stupid. We're not there yet. That is a future weather system. I did not notice that the map jumped because it has an attitude. But so let's run it back. Run it back. All right. So look at it. The two storm systems really end up in the same spot. I could have ran with it because they're going to end up in the same place anyway. The storm we're currently dealing with is going to be in the same spot right there just north of St. Louis, right south of the Iowa line. And it's going to spread that rain, that heavy rain. You're going to see you see that freezing rain, an area of freezing rain right just above the Chicago area. It's going to spread some frozen precipitation. I hate freezing rain. I really hate freezing rain because it just makes it hard to drive. Man, you get a quarter inch of ice on the road, man. It's terrible. Now here we put salt on the road, so it's not as much of a problem here because usually when you have freezing rain, the temperatures are about 30 degrees, 32. So it is usually only a few degrees below freezing at the surface. So when that salt that is on the roadways is able to work and keep it from icing up too bad, but it's the side roads, the neighborhood streets, the little service roads that don't get treated with the salt like the big thoroughfares or the interstate get. So here in the upper Midwest, we know how to live with the winter and deal with it. We have the best plow drivers in the country. So honestly, if your area don't deal with that much snow and don't really know how to deal with the snow, call the Minnesota plow drivers. They'll teach you how to do it, okay? So let's move on ahead and there is this weather system as it moves off the East Coast. Now it's going to move into Nova Scotia and off into the North Atlantic. It's going to take its snow with it. And you see that heavy snow across Maine. And if you're in Quebec and Montreal, and you'll pick up that heavy snow in that area. And we'll see some rain across the big cities that'll spread rain into Boston, New York City, Newark, New Jersey, Philadelphia will pick up rain out of this system, and this is what your Wednesday is going to look like. So we're only going to deal with this storm until about Wednesday in the United States, and then it's going to make its way out. But next, we have our next weather system that's taking shape across the Mississippi Valley and the Ohio Valley again. Another area of low pressure is going to form right in here and move and make its way into, so it's going to keep most of its precipitation in the mid-Atlantic area. So if you're in, say, Charlotte, North Carolina, Washington, D.C., and Delaware here, as well as Baltimore, you may pick up some rain out of this, maybe some thunderstorms as well. And it's going to move up. Oh, we see that freezing rain. We do see some mixed precipitation. So if you're in Charleston, West Virginia, and down into Dayton, Ohio, we could see some freezing rain. And it's going to spread maybe into the Pittsburgh area. Might see some freezing rain in there as well. So this is what we are looking at for the 25th. And this is Friday. This is what Friday of this week is going to look like for your 25th. It's going to see that spread heavy snow. This one is going to actually have heavy snow for the Boston area. This is not a nor'easter because it's coming from the wrong direction. A nor'easter would come from more of this direction, whereas this one is coming from out of the Midwest into the eastern seaboard onto the northeast. And it's going to head out to sea across, right about New York and New Jersey. It's going to head out to sea. But it's going to spread heavy snow. You see how dark that is? That's heavier snow into the Boston area. So Boston could pick up a bit of snow from that weather system. And here comes a Pacific storm system for the 27th, and this is for your Sunday, so it's going to start to spread some snow into the into the northwest, and that's going to go into the mountains of the Rockies above British Columbia. So let's make that one come on shore. But we do have a weather system that's going to form right down off the East Coast, off the North Florida, as well as South Carolina and Georgia. This is going to spread some rain and thunderstorms, and this is going to be valid for Sunday the 27th, and then that's going to spread on east. As you can see, that pattern continues. You can see the that same weather pattern that we've been in, but we have been in a bit of a pattern change. That's going to allow for more Colorado low type systems to develop, as we got a little bit of troughing in the west now. There is a little bit of a trough in the west that's going to make its way toward the that's going to have a slight ridge, a little bit of ridging in the east that's going to allow for those Colorado systems to develop. And let's keep moving right along, and we have a bit of a quiet, a bit of a quiet lull period where here through next week, I don't see too much happening in the long range prognosis, but we do have another Alberta clipper that's going to skirt across the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes. That's going to spread snow across northern Minnesota as well as northeastern Wisconsin. Is going to spread a little bit of snow. And of course, the typical windy conditions across the Great Plains. Not the Great Plains, or the Great Plains is more here, but across the upper Midwest and into the Great Lakes is going to be quite windy with that next weather system. But it's not a very deep low, but it's going to move on off to the east, and it's going to again spread some frozen mixed precipitation, some freezing rain again across Michigan. The boot of Michigan will pick up some freezing rain. So if you're in Detroit, look out for that for next. And this is for Friday, February. Now we're into March. This is March 3rd here, and we have a nice weather system that's expected to form in the Great Lakes area, and it's going to bring some snow across Canada, southern Canada, into Toronto, Montreal, Quebec City could pick up some snow, as well as Buffalo, New York is going to get in some snow for that area with that weather system. And that's going to move on off to the east, and that's going to pretty much do it for the GFS. And there is another Colorado system that's going to spread some precipitation. It's going to spread rain across Iowa and Missouri, as well as back into Nebraska and Kansas, but it's going to have that freezing rain into areas of Ohio. Cleveland again could pick up some freezing rain, and this is for the 6th of March as we move into next month. But as you can see, more rain is going to move in to that area. So here we are in Illinois, as the area of low pressure is there, and it's going to move into Illinois. It's going to spread rain into Michigan. So Detroit again, Chicago. This is a 998 millibar low, so it's kind of hard to see it there, and the colors are kind of blended together. But it's got its cold front right here. This is probably going to be thunderstorms right here. I expect this to be thunderstorm activity around this, because we're moving into March now, so remember that. So now we're into the first week of March, and that weather system, and that'll do it for the GFS. And that is kind of a look, but when you're looking out 2 weeks like that, you kind of want to take what it says with a grain of salt, a grain of sand, because a lot can happen. It's going to change a lot. It's going to flip-flop. But as you get to that within that 5-day period, it kind of narrows it down and will come in line with some of like the European model. They'll kind of come in line together. So that was a look at what we have for the GFS. And the NAO is the North Atlantic Oscillation. And this is kind of be the ocean patterns that tell us what the weather is going to be like over here. So you see that the NAO is mostly positive. We would call this that at this current moment. What day is it? Today is the 21st. You see this right here? This is that storm that we're dealing with right here. This is the current storm that's moving through across the country, the Colorado low. That's what this indicates. It made the values drop a little bit, but it's still on the positive side. With it being positive, this really just means that the East Coast is warmer than average, and there is not a risk for a nor'easter. This mostly means we're not going to have a nor'easter storm come up the eastern seaboard and form a nor'easter when it's positive like this. So this is positive, even though this represents a storm, but it doesn't represent one of those big nor'easters. And then as we move out toward the end, this is Friday. This is the 26th. This is Saturday. As you can see, another weather system is going to probably... This puts that storm where this is located. This is another Great Lakes storm. Another storm that's going to move toward the northeast via the Great Lakes or the Midwest. This is not a storm that's out over the shore coming up the Gulf Stream. This is not an East Coast nor'easter. Again, and then we get another ridge, another area of ridging, and this is about March 1st. You see ridging takes place now. It goes really positive. So this is when we're probably going to be a little bit warm across the east. Very much warmer across the east. Then another storm system probably going to come out of the Great Lakes or the Plain States toward the East Coast. But it's not going to be a nor'easter. So I don't see a nor'easter in our future through the first week of March. Again, these several weaker weather systems, that's what these dips indicate. When there's a drop in the pressure, a drop in the warmth, the temperatures come back down a little bit. That's what that represents. These dips here are storm systems. This is a ridge. Another ridge here. We get another ridge here, another little ridge with a storm system following. So if you go into the... So we're looking at the next 2 weeks out into the first week, through that first week of March. You see that the NAO is mostly positive, but you see some where some of the members want to take it south and take it negative. So when it's kind of like this, we want to call it neutral. So the NAO is more neutral, it's slightly positive, but I don't see... This tells us whether or not we're going to see big storms. So we're not going to see big storms. So I'm not going to worry about any big tornado outbreaks. So maybe there will be some severe weather, isolated severe, but nothing widespread, nothing exceptionally organized, no massive heat waves, no massive cold snaps. It's going to be average. It's going to be... There's going to be a little bit of cold, but we're going to look at the P&A next. And the P&A is going to really deal more with that cold air. So let's jump into the P&A. So with the P&A, we have, see how now this is February 21st. Now you see how it's very negative. It's very negative. The P&A is in a negative phase right now. With the P&A being in a negative phase, that means that the Pacific Northwest and the West Coast is going to be colder than average. It's going to be more inclement weather. It's going to be a storm on the West Coast. As you saw on the first map, you saw that there was a storm coming into the Pacific Northwest. It's going to spread rain all the way down to Southern California. Could actually get some rain in a couple days, finally, which they desperately need. We'll see if it pans out. But this tells us that there's a big storm. And you see it comes out of that trough. There's another ridge. That ridge comes in about the 25th of February, goes into the 27th. It's going to be another little weak weather system that's going to come through on the 28th. And then on the 29th, the ridge is going to build back in again. Then that first week of March 6th, between the 1st and the 6th, you see we come out of that ridge, but then we plunge again. That means another storm system is going to come onto the Pacific Northwest. That Pacific systems are going to come in again. It's going to cool them back down. And then about the 8th or 9th or so of March, you see it start to come out of it as that next weather, as that troughing. And you saw that big trough on the other map that I showed when we looked at the 500 millibar. You saw how that trough that was in the East Coast, on the West Coast, and how it made its way all the way to the East Coast. But as it moved to the east, that trough kind of got smaller and got lifted up and pulled on off into Canada toward Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. You saw how that happened. So these are our teleconnections. These confirm what the deterministic models show. So that is a look at what the at the long range for the next 2 weeks. I guess you can really kind of call that medium range. It's a medium range weather forecast because with the medium range forecast you get it's only 2 weeks, but there are forecasting models that we do that go out months in advance. So that's when we look at those ensemble model forecasts and other different tools that are used for those, but those are more of a climatic thing. Hey, check it out! We get us a nice Honda commercial during our our live stream here. Free advertising for Honda. I like Honda Civics. I want a Civic Si. Don't you? Aren't they so sweet? They're so awesome. Hey, Cleveland, welcome back. It's good to see you. So the folks in Cleveland are going to get ready for that big Pacific storm that's going to spread some not Pacific storm, but that Great Lakes and that Colorado storm that's going to spread that rain and freezing rain to that area tomorrow, especially. So that'll do it for this video. For your long range forecast, I'll be back again later with another video, and we're going to deal with the severe weather, and we're going to deal with also another video where we deal with the winter weather. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment about what you think is going to be in the next 2 weeks coming up. What do you think is going to happen over the next 2 weeks as far as the weather is concerned? And do you think we'll get a nor'easter? Do you think we'll see any more big snowstorms? How about the severe weather outlook? What do you think? What is your opinion of what we can expect? So anyway, thank you for watching this video. My name is Mr. G. We're going to call this the medium range weather forecast. Thank you, and I will see you later in the next video. Have a good day.